The BBC, our publicly funded broadcaster, once the bastion of great journalism, but wow, how the mighty have fallen. What on earth were they thinking when they doctored this clip? Here's the original.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
They changed it to this.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell.
Well, Donald Trump isn't happy. Recently, the BBC brought us a documentary on Gaza, but failed to tell us that the small boy in it, the main character, was the son of a Hamas operative. Remember when they got their facts wrong about a missile that backfired? They blamed Israel.
We've been in this cause for 12 months now of constantly red lines being crossed, mostly by the Israelis. The Hezbollah and Iran have played it fairly rationally.
Unfortunately for the BBC, the backfiring rocket was caught on camera. The corporation have now been accused in yet another memo which alleged bias against Israel in its reporting on the war in Gaza. I should say I'm surprised by this, but I'm not. But the BBC has got a history of making things, of masking things or being economical with the truth. Remember Jimmy Savile? He turned out to be a paedophile, and it appears many in the BBC were aware of his questionable behaviour, but he got away with it for years. Hugh Edwards, another one who was allowed to continue in post for quite some time, even after evidence emerged that he was clearly up to no good. Martin Bashir, and the unethical way he obtained that infamous interview with Princess Diana. And when those they've enabled get caught out, they're quite happy to throw them under the bus, like Russell Brand and Greg Wallace. And what about Gary Lineker? He was allowed to get away with repeatedly flouting BBC guidelines. Eventually, after he reposted an anti-Semitic trope of a rat, which he couldn't really get out of, he was let go, but not without the public having to endure his high horse preaching for years.
Last week, I shared a post here on Instagram that contained an emoji that has awful connotations. Unfortunately, I did not see the emoji. If I had, I would never, ever have shared it.
You'd think, after all of that, and I've missed quite a bit, that the BBC have got the nerve to complain about a newsreader telling the truth.
Aged, pregnant people, women, and those with pre-existing health conditions need to take precautions.
Well, there were complaints about that. Ridiculous. She's right. Pregnant people are women. Forget the fact that they're offending half the population by erasing the word, but they are more concerned about the trans lobby. The BBC has lost its way, and I'm afraid if they carry on like this, there will be no way back.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Right, so before we get stuck into the debates, here's what else is coming up today. In the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, will ousting Sir Keir Starmer save Labour? This comes as rumours swirl around Westminster that rebellious Labour MPs are preparing to oust the Prime Minister. Then, in the second Great British Debate, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is going to model some of her new immigration measures on Denmark. I'll be asking, can we learn lessons from their immigration system? And in the Pulse, it's been revealed that the NHS has spent over £1.4 billion of taxpayers' money on net zero schemes such as electric ambulances. I'll be just discussing that with Dr. Rennie Honderkamp, who will be in the Saturday 5 at 6. That's coming up. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. But before we get stuck into all of that, let's get some reaction from my niggle with the director of the Sanctuary Foundation, Dr. Krish Kandiah. Dr. Krish, surely all of that is indefensible.
Hi, Nana. Lovely to see you again. Look, I think truth in journalism really matters, that we want a broadcaster that doesn't have bias. Some people might question GB News raising this as an issue as being a little bit hypocritical, because I think most people would agree that you come from a political stance. So, a lot of your presenters are from the Conservative Party or from Reform. It's rare that you would have a presenter that was a current Labour or Green politician, for example.
Well, so can I just stop you just there for a bit? Because it's not that those people are not invited. Labour politicians refuse to come on. Let me tell you, Rachel Reeves the other day, when she did the rounds and she did the questions after her little speech, that impromptu speech that really didn't say anything at all, when she did that, even though GB News was on the list for a question and they'd agreed, I think they'd agreed because they were on the list, she did not ask GB News, let us ask a question. And we've invited them all on and they don't want to come on. You know why? Because we'll ask them questions and they don't want to answer them.
I was thinking about your presenters, like people that are hosting television programmes on GB News. You have current members of parliament that are from right or centre-right parties, not left or centrist parties.
But we're not the BBC. We're not the BBC.
I agree, but I just think it smacks a little bit of hypocrisy that we're calling them to account for bias when we're not recognising our own.
Yeah, but we're not state funded, and I don't have a bias. I tell you my position, and that is where I'm at. So you clearly know where I stand, as do all the other presenters. We don't all think the same thing, by the way, and I wouldn't call myself right wing. I call myself a centrist who listens to both sides of the argument and then uses common sense. So I wouldn't say that, but we have left wing presenters on as well here on GB News. And we have people like you for balance as well to make sure that there is a plethora of opinions, unlike the BBC.
Well, look, I do appreciate every chance I get to speak to you, Nana, so thank you for that. I think one of the things that's interesting about the BBC is that they do have a very rigorous process if there is a complaint. And in the little segment that you put together, there's a complaint that they were too critical of Donald Trump, who some would say is kind of on the right end of the spectrum, but they also had complaints about someone challenging what you might describe as a more left-wing or progressive view about women and pregnancy. So they do seem to have a process that is working. And when there is a problem, and you listed, a number, it makes headline news on all the newspapers, which shows that we don't expect that of the BBC, and it's actually quite unusual. It wouldn't be news if it was happening all the time.
Well, it is happening a lot, isn't it? And to be honest, I don't think that the sort of thing that's happening there, so Jimmy Savile, Hugh Edwards, Martin Bashir, none of us here would get away with any of that. And not for long either, because we have an independent regulator like Ofcom who will regulate us and not let us get away with it. The BBC, their exhaustive process that you talk about, is one to exhaust you if you complain. It's like a war of attrition. You'll keep going round and round in the loop until they kick you out of the loop, which is what they did to me when I complained about Gary Lineker. And then eventually they say, well, there's nothing to see here. So I think they've got a lot to answer for. You said about women. So can a man get pregnant, Chris?
I don't think a man can get.
You don't think, or you don't?
I don't. Oh, I know. I did my biology GCSE things.
So can a man get pregnant? It is a yes or a no.
No, a man can't get pregnant.
So when they're saying pregnant people, that makes no sense why they don't say women.
I think they were quoting someone else's report, and I think the challenge came because it was the journalist or the presenter that changed something that was on the autocue. I think that's what that particular issue was.
Well, she said pregnant people, and then she went, so women. Yeah.
And I would agree with her opinion. I would. But I was saying the complaints process isn't biased to the left or to the right. It holds both ends accountable. So Donald Trump would be very clear about where he stood about men and women and who can have babies and who couldn't. But he was being critiqued for other views. So all I was saying is that there is a process in the BBC when these things do go wrong, and they have gone wrong. It makes news because it is unusual, because I think overall the BBC has very helpful content. You know what? The BBC actually saved my life once. I was in Albania. There'd been a civil uprising, and it was the World Service that told us where to go to escape getting shot. So maybe I'm a little bit biased in my support of the BBC.
See there, you're biased now as well. Yeah, you know what? Look, I don't think that they should be gone. I think they should do community stuff there where there is no profit, and they should serve the community as they were meant to, by the way. But they have come a cropper by trying to cross into what is commercial territory, and in doing so, they now have to start doing things like telling us. I actually don't think there's any excuse for it. I'm trying to find some words to explain some of it, but I can't explain why they thought it was a good idea not to tell us that the person who narrated that documentary was the son of a Hamas operative. Why they chose not to tell us that, it seems very odd. Their reporting on Israel has been proved to be biased, and also why they doctored that clip on Donald Trump. I mean, even you must say that that is pretty poor form.
Yeah, I definitely think they shouldn't have doctored anything, and there have been other scandals in the past. I think there was a Blue Peter scandal. Do you remember when they said someone was in another country and they weren't? Look, I think we can agree, Nana, that truth-telling, honesty, being factual in our reporting is absolutely essential, and anyone that can help us move closer towards that, that's got to be a win. So we have some common ground. I still want to give them a... Well, they have been caught out, and they have had to apologise. They've had to deal with it. All of us are capable of making mistakes. The BBC has a huge amount of content going out every single day from news reporters all around the world, so they're going to get it wrong sometimes.
Yeah,
GB News, as you mentioned, has Ofcom watching them, has also experienced some challenge. So, quite a few. It's part of the parcel of being a broadcaster is sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong.
Yeah, but this isn't a case,
that we hold people to account.
Chris, this isn't getting it wrong, swearing by accident, or saying something that you sort of got wrong at the time. This is something that was edited. So you've seen all the footage, you've then edited it, and then you've put it out there. And as I understand it, there were people complaining, saying, no, you shouldn't be doing that, but they still put it out. So, and the Bob Villan stuff, the death to the IDF, the stuff, in fact, I missed that on my monologue. I should have put that one in as well. It was just, but I just didn't want to hear that chant again, frankly, is why I didn't do it. But yeah,
I think that was a mistake. There definitely should have been
another one, though.
Well, when you're doing a live broadcast from one of my favourite festivals, I'm a huge Glastonbury fan, you might want to put a delay in for all sorts of reasons, mightn't you?
Or you might want to just broadcast something else. You've got cameras all over the festival. Or you might want to say, sorry, apologies, this is deeply offensive, we're moving on. You don't do what they did. And in fact, it turns out that a lot of them didn't think they were doing anything wrong at all, which shows their bias right there.
Look, I agree with you on the Bob Villan. They should have handled that better. Definitely should have handled that better. That was
Terrible.
inexcusable. Yeah.
All right, well, I hear you. I partly agree with you. I don't want to see the end of the BBC. I'd like for them to do things that were non-profit, community-based and all that kind of thing, but I don't want to see them handling the news in the way they have, because I don't know whether I can trust them, and I suspect a lot of the viewers and listeners are feeling the same.
Nana, can I ask you, did you watch Traitors Celebrity Final or not?
I can't watch that. I haven't got into that. I've refused to get into that because I think it sounds terrible.
It's worth watching. It was very good. It was very funny.
I'm not watching it. I can't do it. I just can't get myself into it somehow. I refuse.
I think you'd be brilliant on it. You should think about going on it.
I don't think, do you know what? I don't think because of their bias that they'll let me on, if I'm honest, because it's the BBC. Chris Candiar, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you.
Take care.
He's the director of the Sanctuary Foundation. 19 minutes after 4 o'clock, and our spokesperson from the BBC told GB News, whilst we don't comment on leaked documents when the BBC receives feedback, it takes it seriously and considers it carefully.